listening to the questionnaire.
Say that again.
You're listening to the questionnaire.
I've just started.
Right here, for your ears, for your eyes.
The questionnaire.
Get your Comic on.
Poke it out, poke it out, poke it out, poke it out.
It started as an idea, a symbol of our unity. Everyone brought something to the table, and that, ladies and gentlemen, is the questionnaire. This is what that is, and I am the Unknown Factor, aka that Wade Wilson of hip hop, right? Man, I hope y'all have been enjoying season 2 out there. I know I have. It's definitely, I'd say, far different from season 1. We've got so many great guests coming on here. A lot going on. We've got a game of D&D going on, led by Hannibal Taboo, Alan Henry, Dave, my local comic guy, and Shiro, how you doing? I'm getting murked. You got murked.
Doing good.
I can say that you got murked now, even though right now, like, Jordan, you only know that if you watched every episode I'd released, you wouldn't know that information except for the fact that I just told you. Because, man. Look, I'm introducing the guest without introducing the guest properly. I have never done that, Shiro. Did you see that? I said the guest's name and didn't give the guest a proper intro, and that kind of annoys me because he's a man that I see. Just today, I seen him do some cover art that was kingly. A little bit of Carnage, got a little black, might have been Johnny, but that ain't the right J name. It's Jordan Noir in the house. How you doing, man?
I'm good. Having a good day.
That's you're the first person I ever. That kind of annoys me. I did that, Jordan. I'm not even gonna lie, man. So right off the bat, we got the pre-show questionnaire. Y'all can go check out those over the Patreon. And just being a member, you can check out all the pre-show questionnaires from all of the past guests, and we're spicing it up a little bit. I got 3 variations of that now as opposed to just 1. So, but Jordan, you got what was the original. And the question that will always be on the questionnaire, because I think it's pertinent, is what 3 things do you most want to cover during the podcast, right? Occasionally I get answers that I'm like, ooh, that's interesting, and not one I've ever seen before. You know what I mean? Because, typically I do that, so you're like, like, I just did this, dude. Let's talk about it. We'll get to that, Jordan. We'll get to what you just done, all right? Calm down, man. But the thing you said, especially with Shiro being co-host, and I'm like, ooh, this is going to be fun, is as a creator, and I think this is with any kind of creator, and I think it really spans across the entertainment industry specifically, personally, because I've had the experience as when I was doing music and performing and this and that, of knowing when to draw the line and how far to be a pushover. Like how much do you let somebody push you knowing that, well, this could assist in that, but then where do you figure out where the line is? And I think that's a very interesting dynamic. Like I said, I've dealt with it. I ostensibly paid to have somebody bring out an act that they just wanted to see as a fan, just so I could go perform on stage. You know what I mean? Which is a crock, and you're not a promoter. And if you know who you are, you know who you are, right? And I can imagine in the art industry, you've ran across, like, draw this, it'll be great for your career kind of thing, right?
Yeah. That's the tip of the iceberg. That's like the common. That's the one that everybody knows.
Oh wait, ooh. Well, I don't want to talk about the tip, man. Let's get deep.
Yeah. So, I've been working in art, media, entertainment since I was 18. From doing tattoos to being an art director at record labels, to freelancing, doing album art, to working in marketing. It's something I say all the time to people who want to become artists and do it like as a vocation, is like, you are going to be taken advantage of. That's just the bottom line of this type of work. You're going to be taken advantage of. That's just the way that it works. You just have to figure out where your line is of how far you want to go with that. And like we were talking about earlier before we started, the you get to 80% on a project, and then the client asks for some extensive compositional edits, and that's a nightmare one. What can you draw this for me and it'll be good for your career? That's a regular one. And like, to be honest, there's actually jobs that isn't the worst thing, because I've pursued jobs like that. I've pursued gigs where I'm like, let me do this. Don't pay me for it. Just let me do it and let me put my name on it, because this will be great for me. And if you pick the right projects, that can be good for you. But it's when you need to decide for that project for yourself. You need to chase that down.
Okay, real quick, before you go any farther, I want to go a bit more in depth on that particular thing right there. How do you determine which jobs that are like, oh, he's right, that could be, as opposed to where it's like, that dude is blowing a stack of smoke like Snoop Dogg?
Something that you would have done without the opportunity anyways. So like, for example, if your thing is, I don't know, Warhammer, for example, okay? You like painting miniatures, you like playing the games, you like playing the tabletop game, you like reading the lore. If you love Warhammer and somebody has an opportunity where like, we're looking for some freelance artists to design some promo material for us, and if it's something you would sit down and draw yourself anyways without having that opportunity, it's probably, and it's a big thing that would benefit you, then yeah, if you want to do it, if it's something you would be doing anyways, why not go ahead and do it if you can get that opportunity? Because that'll open a door. Because if you can, I'm a firm believer in, you can't play the game unless you're on the field, right? And the only way to get on the field is to tell people that you can play the game. So how do you show people you can play the game if you're not allowed on the field, right? So the way I got started in the music industry was I just liked some musicians, and I would just draw my renditions of like 80s movie posters of what their songs were, like draw the story of their song in an image, right? And I would tag them, I would send it to them, I would draw portraits of them, and eventually these people started hiring me to do their album art. Find something that you love, something that is an intrinsic part of your being, chase it down, and put that stuff out there. Because do this, and also do the stuff that nobody else is doing. That's another good way to break in, to do that type of stuff, is make art, make content, make your videos, make your songs, do things that aren't the norm of what other people are doing, and then just do it anyways. If nobody's going to hire you to do it, just start doing it yourself. Show it to the people that have the hiring power, and then hopefully maybe one day they'll be like, this guy's pretty good, this guy's got some shit here, and they'll maybe hire you. That's how I got hooked up with Jam's Fortress Comics and started doing variant comics and doing the retailer exclusives. I was just streaming on Twitch every day, doing sketch covers, drawing Carnage, drawing Venom, and one of my viewers just happened to know a guy who knew a guy, and they had an artist that fell through, and he's like, well, I know this Jordan guy, I want you to look at his stuff. And then the rest is history. Now I'm doing covers for Terminator, Witchblade, Department of Truth. Like, it's
at firstly 3 great books, and that I'm going to end up reading in their entirety, even though what I said about the pre-show, about the one you said in the middle, and I can't wait to see what Declan does with Terminator, personally, as far as in that regard. But you said Venom and Carnage, and I've got to acknowledge, man, because like I said, I seen on Instagram first, the Johnny Cash was nice. But that Carnage, and watching the layers you put upon it, and suddenly it's, oh, that's Cletus Cassidy, was amazing, Jordan. I just have to say, because I'm just sitting there, I'm like, okay, I recognize that as Carnage. Okay, I recognize that as Carnage. Okay, holy.
And suddenly, surprise, trust the process.
Well, and it's just, can I ask what you were using for that Carnage cover?
Like what materials?
Yeah.
So I use a mixture of acrylic paint markers, but I use them, some of them I draw with, and then other ones I hold the marker in my left hand and use a brush with my right hand and then feather it out to get those gradients and blend them together. And then I use water-based felt tip, like grayscale markers. And that's how I get the depth rendering on them. And I use Thule Art and Posca for the acrylics because they're the best ones out there. And the Thule Arts are the ones that do the blacklight effect that I use.
And I'll tell you what's funny. The longer I run this show, I'm going to end up learning all about these artistic tools and never use any of them.
I dare you.
Did you see the Spider-Man drawing I did for my kid? Where I drew Spider-Man's face, Shiro?
And?
I just didn't know if you'd seen it.
And
I'm 40. I don't have time to dedicate the time necessary to get to where it would make me happy to do it, because I do this and this makes me happy, and I love to be able to talk to y'all and be able to maybe inform people out there of these things and the level that it takes, and the fact that, like you said, you've seen the layers go on that carnage, and just you could see it build and build and build and build, and what it really takes, and the fact of just the amount of materials that it takes to make that process come to life. You know what I mean? I mean, I don't think if someone knew nothing and you gave them that answer as far as, oh, this is everything I use, I think they'd have probably been like, that was a lot.
Well, yeah, there's something I was always taught when I was apprenticing is that materials don't make great art. You could give me a piece of cardboard and a couple pieces of wood and a lighter. I could burn up that wood, make some charcoal, and I could make something cool out of it.
exactly.
It has nothing to do with the expensive markers or the 4,000 colors. It's entirely like how much work you're willing to put into it, and how much that's maybe the wrong word for it, not work, because that's why I end up going for like 24, 36 hours long nonstop, because I'm never happier than when I'm making something. It depends on how much love and how much care you're willing to put into that piece. And you can have the best, most expensive markers in the world, but if you're not in the vibe, if you don't care about that piece, it's not going to be much of anything.
Well, I gotta say in one regard, then I would think that with you doing blank covers, I've heard horror stories about blank covers, as far as they don't like to take certain inks or whatever into them based on the materials they are. You know what I mean? So I think that would be one place, because I fully agree, you're right. You can make art out of absolutely anything. I only say but I think at the same time people would be amazed at the level of things that artists use that are just out there that have been made. Like Richard Pace has got a thing of stamps that he had custom made. Like, and I'm like, what?
Yeah, I remember that. It was cool.
Don't get me wrong. Good materials and a good canvas can definitely elevate what you can do.
Yeah.
That's for damn sure.
Yeah.
But it's not the reason the art looks good.
Oh, yeah.
The artist is the reason the art looks good.
Fully no conjecture out of me from that. Now, but with the blank covers, I think that is one spot from what I've heard where it is kind of about what you're using.
It is. Absolutely it is. That's why I use so for example, Posca and Molotov are generally those are the two that everybody uses for paint markers to do remarks and do signatures and do sketch covers and stuff like that, or at least on the black ones that I use, where you have to have the color fast inks. Molotov, I hate them. They're the most popular marker on the planet for that type of stuff. They're the most expensive, but they're street art markers. They're not meant for fine detail work. And their ink it doesn't stick to, like, so for example, if you want to do a remark on a foil cover, that's
some tests.
Yeah, that's a difficult task to do with a Molotov marker, because the ink will pool up and it won't grab to the cover. It'll, like, all the pigment will suck into the middle, and you'll just have like a clear film around the edges of where your marker was. And Poscas do that on like those Department of Truth covers. the Poscas don't stick to those either. That's why I went with Posca, because Posca, it works on, it hasn't let me down. I can even draw on the windows of Funko Pops and do pretty good remarks on those. And the Posca works great. But on those specific covers, the Poscas wouldn't work. But these, the Thule art markers, luckily, they did work perfectly fine. So I just put down a base coat with the Thule art markers, let it dry for a little bit, and then you can go over top of that with the Posca once you have your primer down, so to speak. Or like blank comics from 10, 12 years ago, when they weren't such a common thing, they were all garbage. They weren't on good cardstock. They weren't pressed under a hard enough press. So when you work it a little bit, it starts to become grainy and fall apart. It bleeds through. Like Image United #1. It's a very hard blank to find now, but it's also one of the worst blanks on the planet to work on, because it'll fall apart, but it's also glossy somehow. It's a nightmare. I've talked to a bunch of people who have used them, and they all say that the worst sketch cover they've ever used was an Image United one, because that was before it was a common thing, before people knew what they were doing. They were just printing regular paper stock or heavier paper stock without thinking about like, oh, material needs to go onto this, before we hit the times of now when, for example, like McFarlane, the Spawn covers, they make great blanks. They're sturdy. They can take a lot of beating. You can erase on them without them falling apart. And they grade well too. That's the other thing.
That's just it will fall apart, yet it's glossy at the same time.
Yeah.
I still think that's funny, and I do think that's kind of a cool thing that's come into the comic book market. I think it's and I've never said this, probably because I've never had this thought. I would love to see like it be like, hey, look, there's this cover, and then there's a blank cover, as opposed to these like 1 in 25, 1 in 100, where you're paying the amount you would pay.
Manufactured exclusivity and rarity.
Yeah, well, and you're paying the amount that you would pay an artist to do a sketch cover, pretty much, for some of those issues. Because some of the 1 in 100s, I'm like, why would you pay that for a comic that's just like, I don't know, man. I don't get it. Maybe it's because my brain works differently, and I don't like. I would rather have a blank cover and take it to an artist and know that I'm getting something that is entirely original and pay pretty much the same amount, maybe $50 more, because those comics, especially if you get them after the market, like after the fact, a month or two, it's some of those books can get real ridiculous real quick, right? As opposed to buy something where it's like, oh, there's only 100 of these. I'd rather be like, there's one of these.
Yeah.
I would love to see that take over more of the market, man, because I honestly think also it would help a lot of facets. I think it would help artists as far as just to get work, because you would see more people bringing in those blank covers to you, and I honestly think it would probably help. No, my brain lost the second part of that because I don't know why. It just did, right? I hate when that happens.
You want to talk about nightmare surfaces to draw on? I just censored it so I wouldn't get in trouble. Still got some of these from a certain company.
I don't know what that is.
It's an aluminum covered, or at least an imitation of that. It's a sketch card. Not going to say from which company. As you can see, it's very mirrorish.
Yeah, like I was doing some remarks on the metal covers for the M&M book that I did.
How fun was that?
They work. They're pretty good. The Thule art, these markers are the best. The ink in them will stick to anything. I haven't found anything that they won't draw on yet.
See, I didn't have none of that.
And they're cheap. They're cheap. They're cheaper than
The only thing
Poscas.
that
They're
would
cheaper than
stick on
Molotovs.
these were Sharpies, if I then use a heat gun on top to bake the Sharpie on the card.
Yeah.
I drew 64 of these. They destroyed half of them.
Ooh. Yeah, that's a bad ratio.
I Though, honestly, Jordan, I've come to the conclusion when it comes to cards like that, and everybody I've spoke to that does them, that's a pretty standard ratio. About 50% is what they take, which is crazy, right? So, how many times have you submitted a cover that was going to be a variant cover, and they looked at you and been like, "Hey, man, go draw a different thing"? And do you ever be
Never.
like, "Huh"?
Okay, so in the music industry, a few times. But I'm pretty new to actually getting published comic covers, right? So I'm lucky enough that working with Jams Fortress, it's kind of a collaborative effort. They like, for example, Witchblade. Witchblade, they had no intention of doing that. I asked them, I was like, can we do a Witchblade cover? I'll even pitch on the print run because I want to do it so bad. Just give me half the books and let me put my logo on it. And yeah, Jam, they give me pretty much full creative control. They make suggestions, absolutely. Or they don't really ever request edits. They don't ever request me to do a specific thing. They let me do my thing and trust my judgment on what I think will look good. Which I know is, so there is certain publishers that we've tried to reach out to get some exclusive covers to do some retailer variants. And without naming names, they are the most control hungry. They won't let you, if you're a retailer, they don't let you pick the artist. If you want to go to a retailer variant, they don't let you pick the artist. They have to pick from their list of artists. If you're insistent, they'll say, okay, we'll look at your artist, but give us 2 other artists and we'll pick our favorite of the 3. And then they'll say, oh yeah, you won't get to pick what's on the cover. We're going to tell them what to draw. And that's going to be your retailer variant. Is like at that point, what's even the point by that line of thinking? So yeah, we walked away from that because that didn't work for us. But in the music industry though, doing album art, there's been a few times where I've worked with the artist, with the musician, finished their entire album art, finished full front cover, because what I did, I specialized in vinyl. So I did front covers, gatefolds, label for the record, and then back cover. And I try to make them all like cohesive products. Like I took the comic book mentality where you got a front cover, you got a big splash page in the middle, and you got a back cover that is, I tried to always focus on the tactile experience of having something in your hands, because music is something that you don't really hold too often nowadays. And when you get a vinyl record, it's something special, and it needs to feel special. It needs to look special. And there was times where I'd spend weeks working on a release, and then they would turn it into their record label. And the label would just throw it out, be like, "No, this is cool, but we need you. Your face needs to be on the record because you're going to be what sells the record, not some cool picture of a statue." That's kind of tough to swallow, but luckily that hasn't happened to me in quite a long time.
Like I said, as someone who is a musician, and I've got a love for it, and obviously have a great love for comics as well. Did you hurt me? And I know it wasn't intentional in any way, shape, or form, because you're just telling a story about what you had. So that hurt a little bit right here, because you're doing the thing that I think is missing a lot in music nowadays that used to be there, which is the physical medium. Here's this cool thing, and there's art, and it's one solid piece, and yeah, that doesn't really happen anymore, sadly.
Yeah, it's an uphill battle trying to work with some labels, some distributors, and even some of the musicians themselves. Like, yeah, I do agree that music is the focus, right? But presentation is what sells the music in a lot of cases. Or not like I know that I've bought in my record collection. I have a ton of records I've never even listened to. I don't know what's on them. I just bought them because they looked freaking rad. Comic books are the same way. I've bought comics that I didn't know what they were. It's like, that's a cool cover, I'm gonna buy that. And sure enough, Homesick Pilots was one that was like, I just saw the rad covers. I ended up buying the whole series before I ended up actually reading them. Sat down and read them, and they're probably one of my top 5 comics I've ever read now. It's presentation is it's a lost art in a lot of places, especially music now, where, like you said, physical media isn't such a focus anymore. And yeah, when you have musicians that have had their whole career working on Spotify and YouTube, they don't, and then they finally get out a label that wants to release a vinyl for them, wants to release a CD, and they're like, I want this, I want this, I want this. It's like, okay, well that's all right, but that won't. What makes you think that somebody looks at that without hearing your music that they're going to want that? Like some guy wanted just his label to be his front cover to be just a black sheet with just his name on it. It's like, okay, well, so if somebody hasn't heard your music, why are they going to pick that up? Yeah, sometimes it's an uphill battle dealing with people like that, but hey, it's their project, not mine. I'll do what they want.
Well, and it's funny, man. I'm gonna get into a bit of a story here from my musical days, because I know at the same time a lot of a lot of musicians like to consider themselves artists as well. Now,
They are. They're
well,
there is an art to it.
no. Wait,
Absolutely.
let me. I don't mean that. Like, I consider myself an artist. I'm a musician. I mean like artists like, I can draw, man, and it's fire, and will oversell the
Oh, yeah.
absolute
I know
crap
what you're
out of
talking about. Yeah.
themselves. That's what I don't mean. Yes, because I very much consider myself an artist, man. I am a storyteller in my music, as is DKB. That's what we do, right? As Killa Factory, it's a fact. But when we
I already
released
know where you're going with this.
our second, no, dude, it's what was that dude's name even? I don't even remember. Nasty, yeah, Nasty Inc. There you go. I'm gonna drop names and make some local artist even madder at me and DKB than he already is. And if you are, bro, go drop a track, because I am not afraid. I don't care. Like, are you serious? Like, I know lyrically what he does, and I know lyrically what me and DKB do, and it would be funny. But he wanted to come across, like, we gave this whole concept for the album. And I'd like to think, Jordan, if I presented you this whole concept and then you heard the album, you would be like, wow, yeah, that sounds awesome. Just as far as how it construed everything together. Because, like I said, I consider myself very much a storyteller in my music. Dude, this guy came, like, he was like, yeah, dude, I'll draw it all comic booky. And Jesus, the things I was presented. And I mean, this is as a lifetime comic book fan, and he comes across like, he's like, yeah, dude, I got it. And then, like, what he presents, and I'm like, there are so many things wrong with this. And that guy already don't like me. So whatever, he don't like DKB either. We kind of made him mad, but that's just the hip hop side of things. You're allowed to do that in hip hop, not so much comics, right? So what do you think in that, man? Because you definitely do work in two worlds where there's a lot of similarities, but I've, in my opinion, and this is conversations I've had with a couple other guests, I think the main difference is in comics. If there's hostility, it's under. If there's hostility in hip hop, oh, it's right on top.
Well, luckily, working in yes, hostility in music it's right in your face. Well, I worked mainly in the retro wave, like synth wave, dark wave, that type of music genre, and it's a bit different where it's not so in your face, like aggressive. It's the underhanded, mean girls type of behavior. Backstabbing, scamming, what's the yeah, we had I've had some terrible experiences in the music industry.
Please, Jordan, at least give me one really good story. And if you want, after the show, I'll give you a dozen. All right, but we ain't gonna get into all that on the questionnaire. But I can give you so many from my time. But I gotta have one, Jordan.
Okay, so this was just about at the start of COVID.
Oh.
I was working with a German record label, I got approached by a friend of mine who I did his album art, and he said, my buddy who runs a record label, he needs some back cover art done for this. He shows me it, and the person who's releasing the album, they got somebody else to do the front cover art, and the person who did the front cover art just stole a bunch of Charlie Adler's art from Walking Dead and just put it on the cover with the artist's name. I was like, you cannot put this on a vinyl and release it internationally. You are going to get sued out the wazoo. So I ended up getting hired to do this album art. It was beautiful. I made something awesome. I made something I'm very proud of. This ended up becoming a working relationship over the next year and a half, 2 years, where me and this record label worked together on everything, day in, day out. And we started doing, we called them record remarks, where they would, whenever we did an album that I did the artwork for, they would also get blank record sleeves, and I would hand make them like blank comics. So there was a set of 10 handmade records for every release, and they sold for hundreds of euros a piece. They were very popular. Well, this was going well for a few years, and the cost of living was going through the roof in Canada, and things were just nuts. We lived in an apartment building that was going to hell. So they offered, why don't you come here and move to Germany? We'll get you your residence. We'll pay you your wage. We'll get you your health care. We'll set you up with a place to stay. This sounds like a great idea. Sounds like a great deal. I've been working with this guy for years. He's been on the up and up. He's always treated me better than great. Like, he changed. Yeah, at the time it was life changing for me, the way that working relationship. Well, we moved to Germany at the height of COVID, and we were there for 6-7 months before we had to like run away home. We never got paid once. I actually was paying him. We didn't have a place to stay. We were living in one of our investors' closets. Didn't have health care, which is a very important thing because, we need health care.
That is literally the one thing, and he didn't give that to you.
And then it turned out he was he had the bad type of drug habits. He was
Now we know where that money went.
well, I'm getting there. I'm getting to the money. We're at the tip of the iceberg so far. He was
Oh
a
my-
lecherous, misogynistic, evil man. Like, my
wonderful.
wife Macie, she moved with me because we work together. We do all our projects together, and he was just nasty to her. Terrible. We had to move out of living with him. That's why we lived at the investor's closet, because we could not be around him. He was nuts. He would then show up at our place just loaded in a 3 feet deep in a K-hole and try and start fights with me so that he could get me deported, because he'd call the cops, and then the cops would just throw me out of the fucking country. And then, because the whole reason we were there is because Germany has excellent entrepreneurial programs. Okay, so if you can prove that you're making a certain amount of money, they will give you exponentially more to continue running that business. And we were making a lot of money selling these records, and all that money was being made from me selling these handmade records. We would also get all our artists from across the world, because performing was not a thing during COVID. You couldn't play shows. So what we did is we called it Record Club TV. What we would do is we would give with 3 or 4 of our musicians a decent budget, get them to get a venue, get a film crew, and perform there and film a nice set. And then I would spend weeks editing all this footage and make live concerts that we would stream on Bandcamp. And then the artists would be able to be in the chat talking to and I would host these live concerts, like a P.T. Barnum type of thing. Well, we were making tons of money. He was embezzling. We had investors. He was embezzling all this money. We don't know. We still don't to this day don't know where. There's no way he could have done all that money in drugs, because that would be enough to, put a small Colombian city under. We figured he was sending it out to Russia, because he had a 15-year-old mail order bride in Russia, and he was planning to embezzle all the money from our other investors, and then going to the government and using my name and my accomplishments, the revenue that was generated from my work, saying like, oh, we're doing this, and then he was taking money from the government but not paying me, and we ended up having to get one of our friends to loan us all the money just to get out of the country, because we were destitute and stuck there in a closet. But yeah, that's the music industry. That's boutique record labels for you.
I wish I could say I was surprised, Jordan. I mean, whatever, Shiro. Look at, like, eye rolling. I mean, I do. I wish, and I mean, obviously, you can see everything now with the way things are going in the current medium, and he didn't just spell rapper without a P, did he? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, so yeah, I wish I could say I was. Oh my god, dude, my head hurts now, Jordan.
Yeah, get used to hearing that Jay's head hurts.
Well, because I do, because I'm a curious individual. I can't help myself. It is my nature. I am the unknown factor. I want to know the unknown. That's just the way that it is. Sometimes I ask a question and then I get an answer, and I'm like, I wish that wouldn't have been the way that I thought it was gonna go. Sometimes I just let's take it that way. What's the most positive experience you've had in the music?
Same situation. That was one of the best experiences of my life, honestly. Going to Germany and getting to make art for a living and experience a whole other culture and do all these new things with all these new people, make all this great content, make all these great records, do all these great shows with all these awesome musicians. One asshole in it doesn't ruin the whole situation. It's unfortunate that it had to end. That's the thing that's the negative of it, that it had to end because of somebody else. I thoroughly enjoyed that whole experience. I loved doing that. I love doing album art. I think it's my favorite thing to apply my skills to. When, like you said, a musician comes to me and says, "Hey Jordan, here's my new album. I'm thinking American Werewolf in London, in the suburbs. Listen to the album, do your thing, go nuts." And I get to listen to the album, get a small little prompt to work off of, and get to go off and do my own thing. That's such an awesome experience, getting to collaborate with somebody in that way and them to trust me with their work that they spent so much time on, and then let me use my hands to show the world what it visually represent it for them. It's a cool experience. It's unlike in comics where there's all these rules. You want to do this cover, you can't use this character, you can't use this character, you have to use this costume, you can't use this, you can't do that.
That's true.
It's very restrictive. But yeah, it was the same experience. It was the best experience in the music industry. But my best experience in comics was SpawnCon last year in Denver. That was an amazing event. I'll always remember that, and I'm really sad that it didn't happen this year.
I didn't even know they did a SpawnCon. That's intriguing. You said it was in Denver?
Yeah. So it was a fan convention that was put on by a couple of guys, but they had to play ball with Todd McFarlane. So like they didn't want to step on his toes. They didn't want to, get a cease and desist. They didn't want to go using his character and his logos and stuff without permission. And they went and did it. They got the licensing. It was officially licensed. They got the approval to do it. And it was such a great event. Like my table, I was beside Thomas Healy, who is Spawn's editor. And then on the other side of me was Ben Templesmith. And yeah, we just had a great weekend in snowy Denver talking about Spawn. And it was a small little convention hall room in a small little hall room in a hotel. And it was, maybe 30, 40 different vendors. Like Keybar came from France. Angel Medina was there. Pretty much a lot of the great Spawn talent was there. And yeah, I had a really great time and made a bunch of friends, met a bunch of cool people, and the crowd that came, they came to spend money, so that was pretty great too.
Well, now Erica wasn't there though, was she? Because I don't think they'd announced that her book yet.
No, Erica Schultz wasn't there
yet.
Yeah. They hadn't announced Rat City yet. Rat City was getting announced. Well, Thomas told me about it. But he didn't show me anything. He's like, yeah, there's a new book coming out. You're going to love this. But yeah, I think it got announced like a couple weeks later after that.
Yeah. I just, Erica, man, she's one of the other co-hosts over here on the show, man. And I've been loving. She's another one of those writers that I honestly discovered on the show, funnily enough, and I'm just like, it's just good work. I have not like it's literally someone I've got her Daredevil book back here. I still need to read, but it's literally someone every book I've read from her, it's just been just phenomenal. What do you think, man?
Yeah,
Would you
Rat
like-
City is the top of my list of books that I want to get a cover for. But trying to get covers at TMP is difficult.
I won't say anything until it's saying. We'll table that for right now, right? So let's get on the table. What got you on the table with a pen initially and drawing? Man, what made you have that passion to develop the skill that you have? Because I know the time it takes to develop that skill. It's extensive.
Yeah. Get ready for another long story. So
Oh boy.
when I was about 3 or 4, it was one of the first things I can remember. My parents got divorced. My dad's a tattoo artist, and so he would come and pick us up on weekends. And I'm like 6, 7 by this point. He'd come pick us up on weekends, and we'd play video games. And he's huge into Spawn, huge into Spider-Man. He had action figures all over the walls and comic books all over the place. Well, I wasn't allowed, not all over the place. They were on the shelf and in boxes. I wasn't allowed to touch them. But he would read me comics, and he would sit there and draw me pictures of Terminator, Godzilla, Spawn. And then every week he would send me home with like one of his less desirable action figures that I could have. And I would go home every week, and I would take those drawings that he drew, and I would sit there and I would redraw them and trace them and redraw them and redraw them, trying to get better and better, thinking that like, if I get good at drawing, Daddy will come back and everything will be okay. Then eventually he stopped coming to pick us up, and I would sit there on my grandma's porch every Friday with my stack full of drawings and action figures and comic books, thinking like, he's coming this time. I'd sit there till like 3 or 4 in the morning, every day, every Saturday, every Friday. And then like you do that for 5, 6 years, you get pretty good at drawing. And like that's still like a click in my head that like maybe one day he'll respect me and maybe one day he'll be nice to me, type of thing. And yeah, so it grew. I grew up drawing every day, wanting a mythological father figure to come back and love me, who never did. Yeah, so that's how I got into drawing, and it's been just like that every day since I was 7 years old.
I
Can relate,
I-
sadly enough.
yeah, gets heavy sometimes over here at the questionnaire. What can I say? I mean, we do. It's a quest, and life gets heavy sometimes. Quests do too, man. And I'm sorry that happened, but yeah, I mean, I think it's the fact that you have to look at it now, and it's made you a phenomenal artist.
Yeah, I'm glad. I'm not glad that happened. Obviously, I obviously would have liked things to go differently, but I'm grateful for the outcome. Yeah, it was tough, but it made me into I like to think I'm a relatively decent human being who treats people well, because I know what it's like to not be treated well. And I have this awesome talent that like I've been able to live off of and support myself for a very long time. And I can't tell you how many times being able to draw something cool for somebody has pulled my ass out of the fire for, financial reasons usually.
That's just. I think you've got one of probably the more interesting and emotional stories that I've ever heard from an artist, as far as what got them to get to the level of their craft that they did. And that's out of a lot of stories, Jordan, just so you know.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of stories over here with people howling, from Shiro to, I mean, I don't even know, man. Like, Shiro's just the one that I bring up. She's right there. So I know that happened at one point on her quest. That was, it's back if you guys want to go check it out a ways. Like, it's back there. There's a lot back there. I suggest checking it out. Shiro's been on several co-hosts sometimes, and she usually talks more, but I'll be honest, Jordan, the hip hop thing and this thing and this thing, and it's kind of like caused that
I
thing
mean,
to where
clearly I'm not into the hip hop business.
yeah, I ain't shut up, man. You know what I mean? Because it's very relatable to me because of the time that I spent in it, the things that I've seen in the hip hop business, and I think it's odd. What do you think is similar to you when you look at the perspectives between comics and hip hop?
Similar between comics and hip hop. Stories. I know that's a vague answer, but like for specifically like not just stories, but like the hero's journey. A lot of hip hop, a lot of albums. Well, a lot of the world around I worked was synthwave, so like a lot of that is cinematically driven. The music is incredibly story based, where there's a narrative throughout the album, right? And a lot of this type of music, hip hop as well, is about overcoming an adversarial situation, overcoming a trial, celebrating a victory, lamenting a loss. These are all stories that we can all relate to, and that's what, if you think about the most iconic, the most long-lived comic stories and series, they all have some sort of heavy punch to them narratively. Like if you think of anything Alan Moore has written, right, is usually pretty heavy stuff. Sandman, X-Men, Spider-Man. It's all just loss and failure and overcoming and learning. That's all those stories
And you know
are.
what? You know what? Nobody gives him enough credit, but Deadpool.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm sorry, man. And maybe it's like Jerry Duggan's run on that and a couple before, and like I don't know, man. I feel like people just don't see. People see more the side of that character they want to see, so they can be an a-hole, than the side of that character that makes it to where he's responded to a-holes and becoming more of an a-hole. But that's just my opinions on that particular character. And like I said, this is someone I am the Wade Wilson of hip hop, and I've been a fan of Deadpool since I discovered him, which was pretty early on in the existence of him. But you're right, and I think that's interesting, man. But I think it's sad. I feel like modern hip hop's lost a lot of that in a lot of ways. A lot of this stuff coming out. Maybe I'm just old and crotchety. I don't know. Maybe I'm getting to that
You
point.
are.
Thanks, Shiro. Ask a question.
Shiro usually talks more. This is
That's
why
why I like retrowave music. It's I generally can't digest modern contemporary music. It feels vapid and empty to me. It's very
Commercial.
clearly a product. Most of the music I listen to is retrowave, which is literally written to emulate music from the 80s and early 90s. That is written specifically to fly in the face of modern conventions and corporate mass consumerism. That's the word I'll use.
I wish I'd have known you, Jordan, about 4 to 5 years ago when we were doing the cover I discussed, because the longer this conversation goes, the more I'm like, oh, that's the dude that should have done that, with just the concept that was presented, and then been like, just listen to this and just whatever. Things happen for a reason at the time that they do, and that's how it is. Right, so let's run with it. All right? Because that's how we do this quest over here, man. Like I said, you got a lot in the works. You've worked on just Department of Truth recently. You've just Witchblade. You've got Terminator by Declan, which, like I said, I'm very much looking forward to what Declan does with the Terminator story, because Time Before Time by him, people are going to hate me for saying this, but that's literally my favorite time story or time traveling story I personally have ever read, was Time Before Time, because there's just something crazy, weird, intricate about that. So I'm curious to see what he does with Terminator based on the fact that there is time travel within that. Man, you got anything coming up that like you could announce in, say, a week? In other words, you can say it now because this isn't going to be out for a week.
Maybe.
Maybe's good.
All right.
Okay,
All right.
if I say it and if I say it and then
I can shop it. No
I reach
problem.
out to Jams and find out when something's actually coming out. If it's a no-go, can it be cut?
Easy.
Okay. So
No problem.
we got Tidal Wave Comics. This is another one that I pitched because I wanted to do it. Tidal Wave has a Prince biography comic. So we're doing 2 variants for that. One is an homage to the Acura movie poster with him and his Purple Rain getup and the Purple Rain motorcycle. And the other one's a foil wraparound cover of him like shredding his Purple Rain guitar, and this long jacket is blowing in the wind behind him, and it's exploding into doves and feathers and music notes that are flying off into the distance. And I think there's another Department of Truth getting announced in the next couple of days as well that I did. It's supposed to come out like November 8th, something like that.
Those have got to be odd covers to handle, because I've read Department of Truth. I actually need it. I realized I was like, oh, I need to pick up these graphic novels, because graphic novel books have come out since then. I Hate Fairyland and Department of Truth are two that I was like, oh, I'm like a graphic novel or two behind where I was. But with doing covers with that, man, how do you approach that one specifically? Because it is the book that it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know how else to say that, Jordan. Besides,
Exactly.
it was
a bit of a bit of mental gymnastics had to go on to figure out the concept for that wraparound cover that I did for Department of Truth 25. When they suggested doing that cover, I had never read the book before. I didn't know anything about it, so I got them all and read them all in like an afternoon. I was like, okay, there's a lot here to work with. I got Bigfoot, Mothman, JFK, Lady in Red Dress, conspiracy theories, UFOs. There's so much here to work with. The only thing that isn't here is the Loch Ness Monster. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to do all of it all at once. And so that's why I came up with the idea of her dress blowing off in the wind and all the different conspiracies are making it made out from her dress. And then I was like, I'm throwing the Loch Ness Monster in there. I don't care what anybody says. But I find them...
There's a little 10 centimeters submarine one just to say it's there.
Yeah. I had to reach out to the editor and be like, because the Bigfoot they have in the book has giant ass tits, like giant hangy floppy tits. And so I wasn't even thinking, sitting there drawing away. And yeah, I draw a Bigfoot with big voluptuous boobs. And I was like, oh shit, I don't know if they're going to be able, I know that they can put that on the inside. I don't know if they're going to let me put that on the cover. So I had to reach out. They're like, oh yeah, it's a retailer variant. If your retailer's okay with it, put tits on everything if you want.
Oh man, don't mind if I do.
Yeah, that was a really fun one to do. And all the like we wanted to do something like all the strips of like information that are falling are actual CIA and FBI redacted documents that were released to the public that I shredded, I cut up into strips and try to make it look like the Matrix rain.
That's good.
Yeah, I just got to stretch my legs and do something out of my norm on that one. But then the next one that's coming out, again, if I hope I can talk. I'll double check.
If
but this one,
you can talk about this,
supposed to come out.
Yeah, if you can talk about this now, just if after the fact, if it's a problem, let me know. And yeah, dude, because I've and then what I'll do is I'll hold it and I'll be like, let me know when this is announced so I can release this little bit.
Okay.
I've had to do that before.
So,
can you tell?
So the next one, it's supposed to come out. So I did a sketch cover of the Lady in Red after I had done the Department of Truth 25 cover, and then Jam's Fortress was like, "Oh, I love that sketch cover. Can I have it? Can I buy it from you?" I was like, "Yeah, sure, absolutely." So he bought it off me, and then he's like, "How would you feel about doing this like as a actual cover?" And I was like, "Okay." But then we zoomed it out a bit, so it was a bust like from the shoulders up of Babylon. But then we pulled it out and we figured out, oh, this issue is supposed to come out like 4 days after the election. Let's use that. So it's my version of a red, white, and black cover. It's Babylon holding a black American flag blowing behind her. It's all like, and then the foil version has the flag all bloody and like blood stained and soaked in blood. So that one was entirely inspired by like, oh, this election's a nightmare, and there's really no good outcome here. So let's use that. That was the whole that ended up becoming the inspiration behind it.
If you're predicting the future, I'm gonna be really annoyed. You hear me, Jordan? So I already know, because I'm in the U.S. This crap
Sadly enough.
is.
Hey, I just live upstairs. I deal with all the racket too.
I did look, man. Look,
You have to live in it. I
yeah,
understand.
look, I tried to watch the debate, okay, and I agree with South Park. Look, for a long time, it's been a giant douche and a turd sandwich, and that's just what it's been. But I've never seen it to where the douche or the turd sandwich was in a bag and the bag was on fire. If you feel me,
Yeah.
like. Like, and then it's like, well, if you don't win, are you gonna burn everything? Dude, if you predicted the future, Jordan, we're gonna have a conversation that's not on the quest, and I'm gonna be like, listen, man, would you draw a cover with this country in peace? All right.
See it from here. We're gonna have a little chat.
Ah. Trying to make the. I mean, I guess whatever worse has been done. But then I don't want to think about what's going to. I hope for everyone and everybody and everything goes well and people figure out, and maybe that people in power actually look back at how history is, but then we get into a whole deep discussion of what
People
redacted
in power
documents.
learning? Wow,
I,
you are creative.
and Jordan, you took this conversation to a dark place with a cover that you did. I just want to point that out.
Well, that's if I get the opportunity, one of the things I'm trying to focus on with my covers is to anybody can draw a cool guy in a cool pose. Well, not, you know what I mean? Like it's easy to draw a cool guy in a cool pose. It's hard to tell a story. It's hard to elicit a reaction.
Yeah, because you only have one image.
You only
Tell
have
the
one image,
story.
and you got to make it count. And so, like, there was an opportunity to do something like that with it. So I took the shot. I had the opportunity. I think there's some album arts that I've done that are the same way,
Yeah.
where it's like,
You say you took the shot. I already have at one point interviewed somebody that said he's one of the dudes that shot at Kennedy. Are you telling me you did too?
no.
Okay, what I just said.
The metaphorical shot.
What I just said is a true statement. I want to point out, but you would have to go back on the days of when I ran a radio, and he said he was in the what's Men Who Stare at Goats. Someone help me. What's the name of the project that movie's based on? I always forget it.
Project Blue Book.
No, but it's.
I don't know. I'm not. I don't know any of this stuff.
You've never seen the Men Who Stare at Goats?
I've seen the movie. Yeah, it's with George Clooney, right?
Yeah.
I haven't watched it since like it came out.
This thing, the name of the project. Always. Are you looking it up, Shiro?
I'm looking it up.
Yeah. Oh, it's gonna bug me.
I'm getting the same title. I got the name of the writer if you need it.
It does. It should get a description. It's gonna bug me, Jordan. I know. Me and DKB even got songs where we bring this thing up, but for some reason, I swear, I feel like I was part of it at some point, and they influenced me enough to where it's like, you need to stop talking about this. All right, you're never gonna remember the name of the project, and they somehow got it to where like I remember everything and I can stick it in my head, but like the project name always escapes me. So I'm starting to think at some point the government got a hold of me and wiped that name of the project to where my brain can just not access it for some reason, and they've done things successfully, which is a whole nother story of worry and. You can't find it, Shiro?
Nah, I got nothing.
Well, dang it, ask a question.
So I'm kind of gleaning here over here.
Here's a question.
Mm.
Why do graveyards all have fences around them?
Yeah.
Oh man, that's just because they know zombie viruses are a possibility, and they are preparing if that is ever a possibility. I mean, that's all that is.
Because people are dying to get in.
Ah,
That's Macie's favorite joke.
like dad jokes, dude. Really, really, really. Like, come on.
You're just jealous because you didn't think of it. You're the dad here.
Let's see. Wait, mother.
Like I was ready with the whole Night of the Living Dead thing, and they used to think vampires were real, so they put some cages over some of the tombs so they wouldn't get out, which is a real thing they used to do. The 1800s, if not a little earlier. I know they did some weird shit in the Middle Ages.
Oh, I have a serious problem now. Well, so you don't follow any conspiracy theories, Jordan?
I think everything's a conspiracy theory.
Okay. Well, then let's get into this. Oh, Jesus. Now I got to remember it's not Project Blue, but it's.
You'll never be more scared than when you hear a flat earther say, "Take him to the ledge."
If a flat earther told me take him to the ledge, I would clothesline them like my name was JBL in the 90s, and they can go there. You feel me? Too deep of a wrestling reference? My bad. It happens. Somebody out there got it. But I just looked up the minute stares at ghosts and checked if it's based on anything, and it's saying it was complete work of fiction. And I know for a fact that I've seen to where previously looking this up on Google, it says that it's not, that it was based on this project that I have interviewed someone that is
MK Ultra.
Thank you.
Macie knew it.
She
figured it out.
Stacey,
She texted me about it.
You tell her I said thank you. Yes.
Oh, she can hear you. She's sitting right behind me.
MK, thank you. Yes, MK Ultra. They must have got a hold of me, and they must know that he needs, I need to shut up about it because apparently I talk too much about it. So I think they slipped me something in my sleep, Jordan. Right? But The Men Who Stare at Goats is actually based on that. And the reason I bring this up is because I actually interviewed someone, funnily enough, who works in the comic book industry, that was part of the MK Ultra operation. I say this because I've seen the documents, and they didn't redact. They didn't redact the names. It says MK Ultra, and then it lists all the names, and I was like, whoa. And yeah, and look, much respect to him. I'm not trying to say anything in any kind of negative context about this individual. If he sees this, I want him to know that. But being put through this program obviously would damage you, because why wouldn't it? Here's a bunch of LSD. Human brain. No takey, no likey. Too muchy. That's all that is. And he literally told me he took a pop shot at, like, he was one of the gentlemen that was up there in shooting at JFK. So yeah, it was very, very odd. How we've gotten this much on Men Stare at Ghosts is my apologies, and I don't know. And you ever had a flat earther offer to take you to the edge?
No.
Huh.
I don't think I've ever actually met somebody who believes that the Earth is flat.
Huh?
I don't think I've actually ever met physically somebody who believes that the Earth is flat.
Look, dude, I knew this dude, and he was adamant about it. And there's part of me that's like,
I mean, there's a lot of them on the internet. They got members all around the globe. Said so themselves.
I can get behind a lot of conspiracies, and we can talk about the depths of things and what is and is not, and just the manipulation of people in a higher authority of power and what they do to make things appear as they're not and whatever. But flat Earth, man, look.
Well, flat Earth is a silly one. I think that one's funny. When you're talking about like there's a reason I sit at a desk and draw things by myself and don't work for anybody else, and haven't for like a decade, because I can't stand
other people.
No, I love people. That's why I stream all day, every day. I love talking to people. Like, I worked for a telecom company. I was an executive for a while. I was the guy who wrote all the loyalty programs, trained all the managers. If you wanted to speak to a manager after speaking to a manager after speaking to a manager, you'd probably end up speaking to me. And I loved that job. I loved talking to people. I loved helping people, dealing with their problems when nobody else would even, like, telecom is a nightmare. But like the ethics of that business was nightmarish. It was You are a multi-billion dollar. You represent a multi-billion-dollar company trying to trick old ladies into buying iPhones they don't need, and then giving them $500. Like, I live in Canada, right? You guys live in the U.S. Probably don't know this, but
I
our
do.
phone bills have only
Shiro
recently
does.
got to be close to yours. Our phone bills used to be like to our basic phone plan with nationwide calling, texting, and like 8 gigs of data, $120 a month, not including the cost of your phone. And there's no way to turn your data off, no way to freeze it. And so your phone, if you're a 65-year-old woman who doesn't know how to use her phone, gets a new iPhone, turns it on, uses 10 gigs of data setting it up right away, she gets $4 per megabyte charge of overages and ends up with a $700 bill. We were like literally incentivizing, trying to make that happen. It was I hate corporations. Can't stand them.
Even more now, I think. You were the man for the cover of that album, Jordan. You have no idea. The farther this goes, it's like, well, yeah,
That's my conspiracy theory. I think corporations run everything. There are no governments. There are no. There's no. Everything is about money. Nothing is about liberty or freedom or democracy. We're all customers. We're not customers. We're a product.
It's about money and labor. That's it. That's all.
Yeah, it's I could talk for hours about that stuff. It's a bleak world out there.
Well,
that's why I love
look,
cyberpunk
man,
stuff. That's why I'm so excited about Rat City.
We are not
cyberpunk, the dystopia of mega corporations ruling every aspect of your life, and you have no power except for to be a customer or to be an employee. Like, that's already what we live. It's like the Pirates of the Caribbean meme with Captain Barbossa. He's like, you like ghost stories, you're in one. But like, you like dystopias, you're in one.
Personally, you should definitely check out Rat City, man. It's been phenomenal. I've really been enjoying it. But you bring up a point. Look, man, my day job is part of an economic art of war. And I've been at enough different layers and seen enough of different things to sit here and go, this is annoying that I'm participating in this, but I have to, because otherwise...
Well, yeah, like, you need to exist. You need to feed your family. You need to have a roof over your head. And when 9 people own every company across the planet, you got to work for one or the other, right? And if you're not working for them, you're supplied by. There's somewhere in the chain that you're at their behest. And I'd rather just draw my own little worlds, draw my own stuff, and not have to partake.
I get it, man. Totally, I do. That's why I'm just trying to quest, be able to talk to individuals like you, playing D&D with Alan Henry, and some of the conversations we got into. I love how they're going everywhere. With that, go check out the Patreon, $2 a month. You can see the before and after every quest, right? Plus, it'll make it to where I can do way more with this quest as far as getting more stuff out to you. More subscribers I get, the more there'll be. And, support independent artists, because I'm really trying to, by pushing a lot of stuff in your face as far as about them to where you can find them, because you'll be able to find links to all Jordan and be able to contact him just down in the description for everybody watching. But I think it is, dude, it's terrifying how things have become structured. You know what I mean? I mean, absolutely terrifying, especially because I think one of the things that people don't realize with how things have become structured is it is structured in a manner that is set up to kill creatives.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks for agreeing, Jordan. That's the end of the quest.
That's why I said at the beginning, like, you have to understand that you're going to be taken advantage of if you want to make a living doing this. If you want to survive, you have to be willing to eat a shit sandwich here and again, because you don't get to eat the hamburger
when you get abused.
Yeah, you're going to be taken advantage of one way or the other, but you got to choose your boundary and find a way to make that boundary work for you. Like when I did tattoos, I hated doing tattoos. It was incredible money and an incredibly awesome lifestyle for a 19 to 21-year-old to be living, like to be in your late teens, early 20s and be a tattoo artist in British Columbia. That was a pretty rad lifestyle. but like, I have a theory or a saying. Art is like masturbation. It's supposed to be deeply personal, supposed to feel really good, and something that you do for yourself, not for somebody else. But the moment you have to do it in front of a crowd, the moment you have to do it at somebody else's behest, when somebody else is telling you how fast to go, when to do it, how fast to do it, stop it, what direction to go in, and the moment that person starts paying you and your livelihood depends on you masturbating for them, tattoo art is public artistic masturbation. It's incredibly awkward, using a highly developed personal skill and resource, for lack of a better term, to make some person who usually doesn't give a shit about you, who you definitely usually don't give a shit about, to do something asinine and stupid to get a paycheck. It was the day that it was like 5 college chicks. This was like, I was 19, so it would have been like 2010, 2008, the time that when Live, Love, Laugh was the new thing, right? Had 5 college chicks all come into the shop all at once and ask for Live, Love, Laugh tattoos, all identical, all in the same, like, printed off of Microsoft Word script. That was the day I never tattooed again. I left the shop, never tattooed again.
All right. Firstly, I want to point out, when I laughed when you were in the middle of that, I didn't laugh because it was funny as far as the story, because it was kind of depressing. But the way you presented it, Jordan, was comical. You ever consider stand-up too?
Well, I stream all day. I stream on Twitch. I stream on YouTube. I stream on whatnot. I'm talking nonstop and usually about art. And like, I've given that little monologue more than a few times.
I
mean, you gotta love the progress of that story. Art is like masturbation. So this one day, these 5 college chicks showed up. I had to masturbate in public for them.
Yeah.
Didn't like it, left the shop.
Oh, Jordan.
Oh, Jay, you're gonna have fun with that.
No, dude, we went all over the place, and it's been lovely, and I want to point out for all y'all watching, man, you need to go check out Jordan's pre-show questionnaire. You know what I mean? You can go over to the Patreon. All you have to do is be a member. You ain't got to pay nothing. Just be a member of the Patreon. You can check out all of these pre-show questionnaires. They're about to get a touch more interesting, like I said, because I'm spicing them up here and there, trying to do things, trying to make it to where there's variables of them, to where it's not the same questionnaire for every individual. So it's still a lot to balance over here, man. So with that in mind, Jordan, how do you manage to balance everything with life and art? Because to be a creative and to make a living out of it, and then to balance a normal life, well.
Short answer is I don't. If I'm being honest, I'm lucky. I'm very lucky in that my partner Macie, she is my colorist on covers. She works, like, we did a CD project for somebody a couple weeks ago. We finally got the hard copies in, and it was her first time where I let her be art director. She decided, she set up the layout, set up the concept, pitched the concept to the client, and then I was just her hands to make the drawing happen. And then she colored it, put it all together. So I'm very lucky that my partner is involved in what I do every day, because if they aren't, I doubt I would be able to be in a long-term committed relationship with somebody if I sat at a desk for 36 hours straight, only getting up to go get water and, maybe grab a slice of pizza or something like that, go have a cigarette every once in a couple hours. I doubt most people would tolerate that in their partner. You know what I mean? Being completely shut off and shut down. But she sits here with me and she does that with me. So that's one way that I balance it, but the way that I make it work is by throwing everything at it. Like, so this is another part, sad, about 2017, 2016, I started having seizures. I started, like, going into deep states of psychosis, and they couldn't figure out why. They thought it was vertigo for the longest. They gave me pills for vertigo. Took them about a year and a half to figure out that I have a brain tumor on my pineal gland, which when I get, it's luckily enough, it's activated by stress. So if I don't get stressed, I don't have any symptoms. What happens is I have nocturnal seizures. I have seizures when my brain switches to REM sleep. So it stops my brain from ever getting fully rested. And when that goes on for 6-7 days in a row, you start to hallucinate. Your brain, you go into a state of psychosis, and like which ends up being it's like schizophrenia. I hear voices, and it gets really bad. It took them a long time to figure this out. And that was when I was doing art on the side at that time. I was just doing, little art shows here and there, selling prints, teaching art classes to kids, side hustle art. And that was when that finally broke, when we finally figured that out. That was what ended up being the catalyst to me walking away from the corporate world and suits and ties and saying if I'm going to have a very different lens that I see the world through, and I'm only going to have a limited time to see that through that lens. I'm going to show other people what I see, try and express myself, and spend the time that I have doing what makes me happy. Whether I'm going to be successful with it, I'd rather spend the last years of my life sitting at a desk with the woman I love, drawing cool pictures and enjoying each other's company than, we're broke most of the time. Life isn't easy. Life is pretty fucking tough, but we're happy. You get to, if nobody was paying me to do this stuff that I'm doing now, I'd still be doing it anyways. That's just the cream on top, right? So that is my balance is I don't have a balance. It's all or nothing. I throw literally everything I got at this. The reason we had to reschedule is because I was up for 3 days working on commissions and doing covers. I didn't sleep last night. I've been up all night again, working on commissions, working on covers. Actually, no, not commissions. I took the weekend off to just work on stuff that was just my own stuff for this weekend. But yeah, it's I don't have an answer for that because I don't have one.
I stop giving me 6 more questions, Jordan, because at a certain point I'm like, I don't want this much to edit, right? So what I'll say with that is if y'all are looking for an artist, man, Jordan does phenomenal work. I mean, dude, I'm serious. I watched that Carnage today coming to life, and part of my brain was like, and then it got to a certain point where you hit it, and I seen what you envisioned. I seen what you had envisioned before you finished it. You know what I'm saying? Because of the point that it was at and the speed. Now, I mean, this was way later on. I'm not saying I seen it when you started adding the black lines for everything. I was like, oh, whoa, yeah, phenomenal art. Check them out. Link in the description. You can get a hold of Jordan. Bug it. Make him stay up for 48 hours and draw more stuff so you can pay him and, he makes money and artists can survive, because that's very important within our world, because the second art is removed, so is a bit of humanity. And I don't know about y'all, but I really ain't cool with that. But for everyone out there, man, I want to let you know, if you've enjoyed this Quest with Jordan, right, what I want you to do, right, is, man, look, I'm going to send you Kid Godzilla, right, the nice one. I don't want to send you Fool's Eyes Godzilla, because, I don't care how good of a mood he's in, there's a chance he might just accidentally step on you. Send you, his little kid, man, the cool kid, right? Send that cool kid Jordan's way, right, with a ton of Godzilla toys, man, because that kid can carry it. It'll be all right, right? Just there's an absolute ton of them to just sit down, chill, and watch a bunch of monster movies with Jordan, right? All right, that's what I want you to do if you've enjoyed this quest. Now, if you haven't enjoyed this quest, and you're like, this artist is just annoying me. Firstly, I ask again, why are you here? Why are you hate watching? There's such better things you could do with your life than spend time. And I say this is the guy that, it benefits if you watch this, I want to point out. Don't do it, man. Go find something you like. But if you didn't, and that's the case, right, and you really just want to drive Jordan a little nuts, what I want you to do, all right, is go get you an H.P. Lovecraft book. Start looking up every ancient evil god that's in it, except Cthulhu. Too basic. But all the rest, right? Send them directly to Jordan. And with
The
them,
less pronounceable, the better.
yeah, for real. Oh my, like you did have to put like I had somebody else do that recently. Put an H.P. Lovecraft monster. I was like, how do you even pronounce this? I ain't even getting into it with you, Jordan. They're just sending all of them except Cthulhu, because like I said, too basic. We don't do basic over here. This is the quest,
He's
right?
the Walmart
Right.
Eldritch Terror.
But I want you to make sure they're all smelling of eggs and are bringing nothing more than an endless movie marathon, right? Of Justice League, the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Oh. See, I had those two in my head, and where did I put? Yeah, we'll just go with those two. 'Cause I don't know what the third one was, and I can't remember. I apparently already wiped it out. Yeah. So all those monsters smelling eggs. You know what? Just give him Justice League and give him the original cut, not the Snyder's cut. Just like, and they're just gonna tie you up and sit there and be their monstrous selves, reeking of just rotten eggs. Because let's make it a touch worse. Well, you have to endlessly watch the Justice League. And again, that's only if you didn't enjoy the quest, man. Right? I hope y'all did. Besides that, I just want y'all to do 3 more things. 1, always give it that thumbs up. 2, get your comic on. 3, have a good night, y'all. Oh, and if you want an interesting conversation, you should pay that $2 because I think I'm about to ask Jordan about some things. He's gonna be like, I didn't expect all that. I'd be like, I know, I'm the unknown factor. Have a good night, y'all.
This has been the questionnaire.
Where's the link?
Thanks for checking out the questionnaire.
In the link below, yes?
I will drop it like it's hot.
That's another party.
It's cool, man. I love it.
The questionnaire. That is all.